Hello, ma'am. So today we are going to discuss the development of the circulatory system. This is for the final output of developmental biology. The cardiovascular system is one of the first body systems to appear within the embryo. It is active by the beginning of the fourth week when the placenta is unable to meet the requirements of the growing embryo. The development of the heart begins with the formation of primitive heart tube following the folding of the embryo during the end of the third week. From superior to inferior, the primitive heart tube is comprised of 6 regions. Number 1 is the aortic roots. Number 2 is the truncus enterocus. Number 3 is the bulbus cordis. Number 4 is the ventricle. 5 is atrium and 6 is sinus venosus. The heart tube continues to elongate and begins looping at around day 23 of development. The bulbus cordis moves ventrally, caudally, and to the right, forward, down, and right, and a caudal portion, the primitive ventricle, moves dorsally, cranially, and to the left, backward, up, and left. These are the 6 arcs and the function of them. Atria at the fourth week, the sinus venosus is responsible for the inflow of blood to the primitive heart and empties into the primitive atrium. It receives venous blood from the right and left sinus horns. Over time, the venous return shifts to the right side of the heart, causing the left sinus horn to recede and form the coronary sinus. The enlarged right sinus horn is absorbed by the growing right atrium and eventually forms part of the inferior vena cava in the adult. In the left atrium, a similar process occurs with the pulmonary veins. The 4 pulmonary veins are incorporated to the left atrium, forming the smooth inflow portion of the left atrium and the oblique pericardial sinus. The early arterial system begins as the bilaterally symmetrical system of arched vessel, which then undergo extensive remodeling to recreate the major arteries that exit the heart. This is a picture of the arteries and aorta of the heart. Septation of the heart Septation of the heart into right and left channel occurs first when endocardial cushions developing in the atrioventricular region expand to divide the heart. This is the difference of heart in 28 days and then in 8 weeks. Atria The septation of the primitive atrium involves the formation of 2 septa in 3 holes. Firstly, the septum primus forms and extends down towards the fused endocardial cushions to split the atrium into 2. The ostium primum is a hole present before the septum primum completes fusion with endocardial cushions. Before the ostium primum is closed, a second hole, the ostium secundum, appears within the septum primum. Following is the second septum. The septum secundum grows with a hole known as the foramen ovale present. The presence of both the ostium secundum and foramen ovale allows a right to left shunt to be present in the developing heart. The timing of the process is carefully controlled at all time. At least one hole is present into the septa to allow communication between the left and right atria. This allows blood to be shunted to the left side of the heart, bypassing the non-functional lungs. Then there is the ventricular. The interventricular septum of the ventricle has 2 components, one muscular and one membranous. The muscular portion forms much of the septum and grows up from the floor of the ventricle towards the fused endocardium cushion, but a gap, the primary interventricular foramen, remains. This gap is formed by the membranous portion of the interventricular septum, which is comprised of connective tissue derived from endocardial cushion. This is a heart which is demonstrated before birth, immediately after birth, before birth, and also after birth. The outflow tract in endocardial cushion also appear within the truncus enterocus, which grow towards each other. As they grow towards each other, they twist around each other and forms a spiral septum, dividing the outflow tract into the left and right sides. And this is the fetal shunt and adult ramen description. And that's all for the discussion of for the development of the circulatory system. Final output, developmental biology. Thank you, Po.